She is a Toastmaster and founder of Brand House, where she helps startups build their brands. She is involved in advocating for the importance of supporting local music and artists as a board member of Sled Island, a former co-owner of Pulse Studios, and creator of Extra Credit, which is a citywide high school hip hop dance competition. Her current life looks a lot like working from varying international Airbnb bases while traveling the world and playing tennis with her amazing partner, Vince. As a first-generation Chinese Canadian, Gill learned about personal reinvention from her father at a young age. This lesson has fueled her courage to go against the grain to live a life on her terms. Here is Gill Coe with personal reinvention.
At the age of 25, my father marries the love of his life. Little did he know their time together was going to be short-lived. When my mother passed away, I was only 3 years old. Her death was sudden. Until this day, no one really knows exactly what to call the sickness that took her from us. Any memories I have been stitched together by return visits to my hometown, Manila, hearing stories from aunties and cousins, and seeing pictures of her in my family photo albums. This tragedy forced an imminent task for my grieving father to find a suitable mother to help him raise his 2 young kids. I don't remember much of this time, but for my father, life got turned inside out too fast. Everything reminded him of how unfair life was. There was nothing he could do to bring back my mom for us. Somehow, he mustered everything inside of him to fight. He picked himself up and told himself his life was worth keeping because his kids depended on it. Something happens when you make a firm decision with clarity like that. The universe conspires to make it happen. A year later, my father remarries a strong-willed and smart woman, the only mother I know. And before the end of 1989, now 4-year-old me and my family immigrate to Canada. It was only recently when asking my dad about this journey again that I learned he only told a select few of people he was leaving the Philippines. There was no convincing my dad to stay. He wanted to save everyone the trouble of asking him all the questions. And frankly, he didn't want to answer to their curiosity. I didn't know it then, but in reflecting for tonight's event, I realized I had learned my first lesson about personal reinvention from my father. In leaving everything and everyone behind, in doing what he felt he needed to do, he taught me when you're making changes in your life, no matter how big or small, you don't give yourself the option to back out. You go all in. If this is what you want to do and you got to do it, no backing out, or it just may never happen. This play all in attitude came in really handy for me at a pivotal moment in my personal life after graduating university. I had just graduated from a computer science degree and found a job as a software developer at a Canadian startup. I was relieved to say the least, and proud for one. I accomplished something I thought was going to be the hardest thing I would ever have to do in my life. I found the program excruciatingly difficult. I almost failed along the way. And it wasn't until my last year that everything finally clicked in. After graduating, I had a sense I was meant for something big. I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like. I just had this feeling. And at the time, I thought this was just the world is your oyster feeling that every grad has or talks about. I have a question for you, everybody in the audience. Who here has felt this little feeling or something like it at some point in your life? Like something truly awesome was coming for you. Okay, I see a few hands up and the chat going. This story is dedicated to all of you. One night after work, Vince, my boyfriend then, husband now, and a school friend of ours, Dave, got together at my company. We took out pen, we took out paper, sat around the dining table and listed out businesses we could start up together. We literally had 3 ideas. 1 IT consulting company, bubble tea shop, and dance studio. We left the condo feeling pretty productive, landing on a winning idea, but had no real plan in place. And at this point in my career, I was working diligently to please my managers at work, feeling super grateful I was making pretty good money. And on all accounts, I was successful. But I struggled. I struggled with the idea of writing lines of code for the rest of my life. I struggled with the idea of clocking in at 9 and clocking out at 6 p.m. every day. I just couldn't find the significance in what I was doing. And most importantly, I was making money, but I didn't feel rich. I thought, how am I going to do this for the rest of my life? I don't like feeling this way. So at 23, I had a oh crap moment. I realized I couldn't be the daughter that my traditional Chinese parents wanted me to be. I couldn't be that employee that was going to stick around for 10 to 15 years or work really hard for a promotion for that paycheck. I realized I actually needed to do something I love, and I didn't love coding. I was taught to go to school, graduate, get a high-paying, respectable job, don't date, but somehow get married, have children, and save for retirement. So what do I do with this dilemma? Well, at the time, I was getting really into dance, and I discovered breaking, or better known as breakdancing. Vince actually introduced it to me. In fact, Vince and I would talk about how cool it would be to have a dedicated space for us to learn all the dances that we were getting into while building a sense of community. In the fall of 2009, we invited a well-known prominent figure in the local dance community to meet with us. Her name is Tara. We wanted to pick her brain and validate some of her ideas around creating this dance space. We came out of that meeting with even more ideas and even more motivated, so we started looking for places to lease. And about 6 months goes by, and we run into Tara again at an event where she asks us, hey, how are things going? How goes the hunt for the space? And, would you and Vince be willing to have a meeting with me and my husband in a few weeks to talk more about it? So a few weeks later, Vince and I meet at Tara's beautiful garden with her husband. I didn't know what to expect, and I didn't know where the conversation was going to go. So I was really nervous about this meeting, but I tried to stay open. Well, we tell her that we're still shopping around for space with absolutely no luck. And as it turned out, she was really helpful, sharing that she knew teachers, she had students, she knew how to build programs. I was sitting there thinking, this is shaping up to be a really great conversation. I think this person might actually be into our idea. Her support didn't stop there, because we shook hands that day, and a few months later, the 4 of us opened Canada's first and only street dance studio. Now, you must be thinking, wow, Jill, that's a success story. This girl is fearless. She just went for it. But that's not me. That's too risky. I couldn't do that. I get it, because it may seem like things easily fell into place, but in reality, I admit, I was really scared. I had no business operating a dance studio. My insecurities got even worse when I started telling people we were going to do this. There were people who were scratching their heads, skeptical, even suspicious of our intentions. Most of all, I was afraid I would be a letdown to my parents, who frankly had no idea what I had been working on. They didn't know I had taken out a giant loan on my condo. They had no idea Vince was going to move in with me. They had never met my business partners. In fact, I barely even knew them. And to be honest, we ran the numbers, but we didn't know for sure if we were going to make money because no one had ever done this before. When it came to that summer afternoon, meeting Tara and her husband, in that moment, I saw I was given a choice. I was presented with an opportunity to step through 2 years of listening to my fears. Can I do it? Who do I think I am for starting this dance studio in the first place? I don't know anything about them. I'm not a dancer. I'm not a teacher. In fact, I'm a nobody. I've never had a business before. Will people respect me enough to want to work with me? And how much money am I actually going to lose? These were all the reasons the studio remained a scribble on a piece of paper for 2 years. I decided in that moment, I wasn't going to let my fear of failure or the unknown ruin the chances for me to do something I had been wanting to do for so long. I decided I was going to swim against the current, go against everything I was taught about life success so far, and just go for it. We celebrated the studio opening with an exciting dance battle and party. It was exhilarating. You had to be there. At one point of the night, I stopped to look around and I saw a community celebrating. I had this overwhelming rush of joy and I was so proud of myself. In that moment, I locked in the feeling and I said to myself, this is what I want life to feel like. This is what it's going to feel like from now on. And do you know what else I was thinking? I couldn't help but think, okay, when am I going to quit that job? Because it doesn't feel like this. After all, my dad did teach me that if you want something to happen, you make up your mind to do it, take action, and you burn the boat. So I said goodbye to a great job with 90K on the line with this new venture. And I am happy to be sitting here to share with you that we were profitable in our first year of business. This brings me to another personal lesson I'd like to share with you. When you are making changes in your life and going after things, don't put a limit on what you can do without even exploring what you're capable of. After an amazing 6 years running the studio, Vince and I decided to pursue other things. I learned a lot about marketing when I left the studio. I decided to pursue a professional career in it. And starting the studio and building it was really the beginnings of me understanding the idea that our thoughts are things, that we as humans have the power to create and bring into reality the things that we think about and want. And so when I was thinking about what a successful career in marketing would look like, I made a mental checklist. Work with the best global brand out there, or one of them. Surround yourself with brilliant people. Do epic things. That's it. 3 things made the list and I went on my way. I had no idea I was going to end up working for one of the largest brands alongside some of the brightest people I've ever met when I got the job with Red Bull Canada. The job meant a lot to me because, first of all, getting it was sort of magical, which I won't have a ton of time to go into today, but that probably deserves another speech on its own. But to give you some context, essentially, I applied for a job while spontaneously inviting myself on a trip to Rome with a couple of strangers and our mutual friend, whom, by the way, had no idea I was joining them on their pre-planned trip. Then I managed to land an interview, get this, on the steps of the Vatican City. And I did the interview presenting my case study that I finished in the 10-hour flight from Calgary. And before the end of the week, I get an email from Red Bull saying, you got the job with the pay I asked for. These kinds of stories you can't make up. And getting the job also validated me in a lot of ways. I didn't have extensive marketing experience at that time. And so I proved to myself I was capable of incredible things, especially coming after a big, scary step in leaving the dance studio. But that empty feeling I had when I was working as a software developer came back. And at the end of 2020, during the pandemic, I recognized I had been so focused on building my career that I wasn't paying much attention to anything else. One of the things I became exposed to while I was running the dance studio and being in the entertainment industry was the idea of traveling to cool places all over the world for your job. And for many artists, touring and traveling and getting paid to do something you love was a dream. This was so inspiring to me. And the more people I met who was living this kind of lifestyle made me hope that one day I would be able to travel and live anywhere I wanted to too. But being able to live anywhere, do whatever I wanted, with whomever I wanted, well, that's a pretty big ask. I know it is. It sounds impossible. I was asking for the kind of liberty I think a lot of people want. Essentially, I wanted to live life on my terms. So now I'm 36 and experiencing a midlife crisis. I think I'm really practicing for that real midlife crisis, right? I was chasing success based on what others expected of me. And okay, now I wasn't in an actual crisis, okay? I was the marketing manager at Red Bull, and on all accounts, and anyone would tell you that I was crazy for thinking that I wasn't enough to be happy. But living life on my terms isn't about being happy because I was happy. It was about giving myself permission to want the things I want and have them. I realized if there's a goal I want and I'm not doing it, I can't be mad about it. If I want to live life on my terms and travel the world, guess what, Jill? You're going to have to go all in. When I made the very difficult decision to leave Red Bull, I got very, very emotional. One part grieving, the other part celebrating. Celebrating that I made a tough decision, not for anyone else. I made it for me. And when I did this, I was taking accountability for my life. To me, that's freedom. When I gave myself permission to take control of my life, anything seemed possible. For the next 12 months, Vince and I have lived as digital nomads, working remotely while living in beautiful places. Don't hate me. Rome, Florence, Marrakesh, Paris, Portugal, and even Texas. And I'm not here bragging, but I wanted to share these stories with you all today because I've seen so many people afraid to act, to do and go for things they really want in life. Can I be better? Will someone date me? Will someone hire me? Will someone marry me? If we're willing to pursue a goal, change is required. And a level of sacrifice will also be there. Don't put a limit on what you can do before giving yourself the opportunity to see what you are capable of. And I'll leave you with this. Dream big, make the decision, and please go all in.